Starbucks layoffs. Look at this. Oh no. Are they leaving? They look like they're closing down. Oh no, this is terrible. They wrote a letter to the customers. They closed this location up. This is on the east side near Midtown. Oh no, people are gonna lose jobs. Look, this is so terrible.
So I spoke with some of the baristas about the Starbucks layoffs, and they told me that many of the colleagues that they have from other stores had almost no notice, 24-hour notice, email notice, but very fast, very hard closings around Manhattan. Multiple Midtown stores that I'm aware of are closed. I'm aware of at least 3 stores in Midtown East that are closed. I don't know how many across the city, but it definitely was a shock to those employees and to their colleagues. And it was also pointed out to me that the ones that were left open are the ones who have large dining rooms and can take large-scale traffic. So do with that information as you will. That's what I was told by the other baristas that are still here. So sad day in the city, and so sorry to hear about the store closures and the loss of jobs for those who were not placed in new locations.
What if I told you that your favorite coffee chain, the one that preaches about community values and partner care, just threw a bunch of its own partners under the bus? All while their profits are still brewing strong. Yeah, grab your lid, folks, because we're about to spill the real tea. Or should I say, venticize the hypocrisy behind, Starbucks layoffs. Hey everyone, you're welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss a fresh brew of truth. Now, let's get into it.
Starbucks is closing 34 locations in one day in New York City. So right now, Starbucks is under $1 billion restructuring. So what does that look like? Well, Starbucks and their new CEO, Brian Niccol, who many of you will remember unfavorably from what he did to Chipotle the last year that he was there, where he went all over TV and told everybody that they hadn't decreased the portion sizes and that they weren't charging more for the food, even though the food had like 3x since the time that COVID started, and the portions were like laughable when you'd order online. Now that he's been out, the portions have kind of gone back to normal. Thank you, Starbucks, Chipotle for doing that. But he went over to Starbucks now, and so they're going to be laying off all these workers, closing all these locations, and basically the plan for Starbucks is to do what they call a third space effect. If you don't know what a third space effect, it's this. So you have your home, you have your work, and then you have to have a third space businesses believe that you spend your time in. Now, gyms are a third space. Starbucks wants to be the third space that you hang out in. So they're trying to get away from the model where you just quick pop in, grab your coffee, and leave. They're trying to get you to stay there and spend more money. So they're trying to refurbish at about $150,000 a store, a whole bunch of stores, to make them more welcoming. They're also having the baristas write on the cups, have to do a bunch of greetings, all this kind of stuff. The baristas, who are already incredibly overworked, don't like this. There's been a ton of videos already on social media from people that are like, this is so stupid. People just want to get their coffee and go to work. I understand the model that Starbucks is trying to go to, and the tagline that they're trying to do is that Starbucks wants to be the best customer service company in the world. The problem with that is if you look at other great customer service companies like Costco, like In-N-Out, like Chick-fil-A, that have incredible customer service and train it, and even though they are franchised, are able to put that out and maintain it, is that people are not in an incredible rush to do things at this location. Yeah, you want to get your burger, but if the staff is friendly at Chick-fil-A or at In-N-Out, it doesn't take that extra 20 seconds to be friendly for them to ask you your name, for them to wish you have a good day. There is this at Starbucks. Starbucks is also trying to push towards more gluten-free and protein options because they've surveyed people that think they want that. Honestly, if I'm getting Starbucks, I want a coffee and a pastry. I want to be out as fast as humanly possible. Have that thing ready on the counter once I've pulled up, ordered it from the app, so it's ready to go so I can get out of there. And I just don't think that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a lot of folks that want to sit in Starbucks and chill all day, but already from all the messages that I got from previous Starbucks videos from their employees telling me the baristas are incredibly overworked, the new ordering system is a mess, takes even longer to get orders out now, they're very frustrated, they feel very underpaid, and I think that Starbucks is going the wrong way with a lot of this kind of stuff. They really need to look at what they're doing, because this is the model. People want their coffee fast, and that's why they go to Starbucks, and the drive-thrus and all this kind of stuff. And if you make it much more complicated and you make it much more steps, people are not going to want to do it. But let me know, am I wrong? Do you guys think that people want to spend a lot more time in Starbucks?
What's happening to Starbucks should be studied. They just announced they're closing stores. They're laying off a whole bunch of people. They're estimating it's going to cost them over $1 billion to restructure. They got too big for their britches and felt like they could do and say whatever they wanted. People boycotted them for a whole bunch of different reasons. There were so many different Starbucks boycotts, I can't even remember all of them. But they fucked around and they found out. Americans voted with their dollars. Chose not to. On top of, because I'm sure I'm going to hear it in the comments, we broke. We broke. Ain't nobody got $5, $6 for a coffee. When I get a coffee at Starbucks, every now and then when I have to run out of here, because I do 3 cups a day, straight black here, but when I can't because I don't have the time, I'll go to Starbucks and I'll get a large with a couple of shots. Yeah, it's like $7. It works though. I'm ready to go all day. But I can't even tell you the last time I did it. And I probably don't even do it a dozen times a year. But yeah, Americans voted with their dollars, and now Starbucks is closing stores and laying blue and purple hair people off.
Starbucks just announced this morning that it is closing 1% of its stores in North America, and the Starbucks Reserve Roastery here in Soto is one of those locations. The windows are all boarded up. You can't see inside, and there's a note on the door talking about the closure. The parking lot, by the way, that's usually really busy and bustling, is practically empty right now. It was also announced that 900 non-retail employees will be losing their jobs. That's in addition to 1,100 employees losing their jobs earlier this year.
Starbucks is laying off 900 U.S. workers and closing hundreds of locations. And I told you guys that this was going to happen, and this is what the direction they were going in a bunch of other videos. So here's what's happening so far. This is about 1% of U.S. locations. So Starbucks right now has 18,300 coffee shops. And this is going to take them down to about 430 locations, less than they had in June of this year. So the reduction of 900 employees they call current non-retail partner roles. Who knows what that means? Corporate speak for whoever they want. This is going to offer, one good thing from this is that they're at least going to offer severance packages that include benefits extensions. So props to them at least for doing that. And they're hoping that this will uplift 1,000 locations to greater texture, warmth, and layered design is the line that they put out in the article. So the company recently announced it's going to close 80 to 90 of the pickup locations, which are in more than 20 states. The pickup locations are ones where you are exclusively designed for mobile orders and quick pickup without the wait. So what Starbucks is doing overall, guys, is they're going to a model where they're going to go on the menus, which they already made a whole bunch of unpopular changes where they took off menu items that people wanted. They're going to go to high protein and gluten-free options. And they're going to be redesigning over 1,000 stores and putting about $150K into each store. And they're doing this systemically for a process that is called the third space effect. If you don't know what a third space effect is, it's a company concept that says you go to home, that's one place, you go to work, that's one place, and then you have another place where you spend your time, that's your third space, and they want that to be Starbucks. So they're trying to make Starbucks more welcoming, and to do that, the CEO is pushing that they want to not become necessarily a coffee company, but they want to become the greatest customer service company in the world. That's his byline for this. Now, the issue here is that this CEO is also the one that the last year at Chipotle ran prices up, got portions really small, and was very unpopular on TV for an entire year, going on and saying that they hadn't driven prices up, they hadn't made portions small, and Chipotle's own employees revolted and made hundreds of videos on social media saying that all of that had happened and that he was full of crap. So now this guy's on TV every single day and in the news every single day talking about what they want to do going forward. So the point of all this is that all these changes ultimately are going to cost the company a lot of money. So where's that money going to come from? Eventually, with going to these high protein, gluten-free options and all these fancy upgrades, you know at some point that Starbucks is even going to get much more expensive again, much more than it is now already. So I won't be paying the additional price so that they can do this revamp. I liked Starbucks where I could get a quick coffee and a pastry on the way to work, but I'm not supporting this. I'm out. What about you guys?
Starbucks is in a complete tizzy. Their business is disappearing. Nobody can afford it anymore. We are becoming a country that looks like those we used to watch on National Geographic programs on TV. A few rich people in a few elegant cities surrounded by a vast sea of poverty. That's where we're going, folks.
Starbucks is closing a bunch of stores and they are firing a bunch of people. Starbucks is closing a bunch of stores and they're firing a bunch of people. But I think there's something more we need to peel back behind the layer of this. We learned about this from CEO Brian Nichols, who, by the way, you would recognize from his time at Chipotle, where he effectively gaslit us about the size of portions. And there's a lot to unpack about this announcement about closing certain stores. But the first thing I would point out is that Starbucks is closing 1% of total stores. But 10% of the stores that are being closed are unionized stores. 1% of total, 10% of those are unionized. Interesting. But with the cost-cutting measures being implemented at Starbucks, I think it's important to talk about some things that Starbucks is spending its money on. For example, Brian Nichols, the new CEO of Starbucks, who came from Chipotle, chose not to relocate to Seattle. Instead, he commutes 1,000 miles from Newport Beach via a company jet multiple times per week. And while Nichols ordered people to return to work in the company's headquarters, Starbucks built a brand new office 5 minutes away from his house in Newport Beach. So when he's not on the jet, he's driving to the fancy new office that, by the way, has a $14,000 coffee machine. Brian Nichols, the CEO of Starbucks, made $96 million in 2024. That is 6,666 times the median pay of the average Starbucks employee. So when he's not commuting to Seattle in a private jet that the company pays for, he's working at an office that they built for him 5 minutes from his house, making 6,666 times more than the average Starbucks employee. And Starbucks is worried about cost, so it's closing stores. At the end of the day, Starbucks' success is probably less tied to store remodels or closing stores or which percentage of stores closed are unionized, and more tied to the fact that we're all struggling quite a bit. And no uniform changes or writing names on cups is going to alter the fact that our economy is really suffering. But the very wealthy among us seem to be doing just fine, and they increasingly demand more and more and more resources to make themselves comfortable while the working class suffers. Whether that's Chipotle or Starbucks, we pay the ultimate price.
I really hate to deliver all this bad economic news, but we've got to be awake for this, and we are being gaslit left and right. So I had already made a video that nearly 1 million Americans lost their jobs because of this Project 2025 Trump administration. 270,000 plus due to Doge and another 750,000 from American-owned companies. And it's being predicted that another nearly 500,000 of us are going to be losing our jobs by the end of the year because of tariffs, because of funding cuts, because of deportation efforts. And you've got now 60% of CEOs and CFOs saying they will not be investing in any new businesses, any new infrastructure or technology because of the way the economy is under the Trump administration. So there goes all the new job growth opportunities at a time when new job growth has plummeted under this administration. So you've got this landscape of Americans losing their jobs and they can't find work. And you've got college graduates who can't find work. I mean, this is bad. So now Spirit Airlines has announced they're laying off 1,800 flight attendants. Now, 1,800 is a lot in a really dismal job market, especially if they're the breadwinners and they carry their family's insurance. But this is really a story about the canary in the coal mine. This is an indication of just how bad the travel industry is being impacted by the economics or lack of economic knowledge of this administration. You've got places from Las Vegas all the way to Disney that are seeing a plummet in numbers, and all the surrounding hotels and restaurants that support the travel industry, they're being impacted. You've got Airbnb owners in the Smoky Mountains trying to hurry up and sell their cabins because they're being impacted. Whether Trump supporters want to acknowledge this or not, people from around the world do not want to come here right now because they see Trump and his administration as so authoritarian and brutal that they're arresting innocent people, people trying to cross the border. People are being detained if they have anti-Trump rhetoric on their phones, and you name it. And then you've got the rest of us here in America whose disposable incomes are just disappearing because of the rise in prices. And that's affecting the travel industry. So you've got the Spirit Airlines announcement today, and then you've got the Starbucks announcement. Now, you know we're in a bad economic state when Starbucks announces that they're closing down stores and they're restricting new hiring at many of their locations. When you get laid off somewhere and you can't find a job opening at a local Starbucks, you know that we're in trouble. And this hurts college students who are trying to pay for very expensive college because a lot of them work or are trying to work at Starbucks. This is like really bad news. Will Trump supporters finally see that this administration is affecting them with their very kitchen table issues that affect us all? I don't know. We already know that farming is being decimated by this administration, and my husband and I just drove by a very run-down farm, and this farmer took the time and the funds to either purchase or rent a commercial lit-up sign to put on the side of the road. And this is what this farmer chose to put on his sign. The Democratic Party is the demon within. Midterms, folks. Get out and vote.
Here I am with another Starbucks rant. You know what I find funny? In my notice of layoff, they said that I would lose my Spotify benefits, my premium Spotify benefits, within 2 weeks. Do you think that it was 2 weeks? No, let's say 2 days. They also deleted apps off of my phone. My partner numbers stopped working. I couldn't log into anything. They said 2 weeks, but the system really said right now, like right now. Now, here's the tea. In that exact same email, they stated that I will receive my severance letter within 8 business days. 8. But I want to know, how come the benefits disappeared instantly, but my severance package is taking its sweet time? Where's that same energy when you were snatching benefits? You didn't even give me a chance to mourn my premium Spotify. It was there and then poof, it was gone. So now I'm just sitting here hoping that when I wake up, my severance letter is signed, sealed, delivered, because I'm gone. And y'all move fast with everything else, like shutting down the store, deleting my Spotify. Let's move fast with my funds too. Thank you.
Well, friends, it's been 1 week since my layoff from the Starbucks coffee company. This time last week, I was just literally off and on phone calls with former peers and everyone trying to figure out who had a job, who didn't. But in the last week, I think I've connected with a lot of you. So many have reached out, partners that I knew when I was in my role, and then partners who were impacted by layoffs that I didn't know, but like we worked in the same business unit. And anyway, it's been a journey over this last week, and I don't really know what's coming next. I'm kind of embracing or attempting to embrace the slowdown, which feels like a full force screeching halt, brake slamming for my career, but I also am trying to take that in stride, and I'm still in school. Next week I have to begin to figure out how I'm going to pay for school come January, when my benefits as a partner are no longer existing and I'm no longer in the Starbucks College Achievement Program. So there's that. Yesterday, in the evening, after my home was quiet, I made some jewelry. So I made this necklace for myself, and then I made this one with a little Sagittarius charm on the end. And then this morning, I just made myself this little beaded bag charm. So I'm trying to find one creative thing to do a day, because that was something I wouldn't have had time to do before. And just lean in and embrace what this is. It still feels weird. It feels really weird. I mean, I I was planning on retiring from Starbucks someday. Like I was intending my entire career to continue and grow and move. My intended plan was this fall, when a role opened that was like a leadership level above mine across the country, I was going to apply for that role and like shoot my shot and see what would happen. So it just feels very unsettling still, but I'm trying to encourage myself to just embrace being unsettled, because I can't, like, I don't want to lose everything I've worked for by just reacting in this moment. Oh, I have a little human. She's painting and crafting. I unearthed all of our craft stuff from the pantry. I'm actually going to set up the desk that used to be in my room for me to sometimes work in my living room and move my craft stuff to it. I got my sewing machine out, which I haven't used in years. And the reality is, I think for anyone who's in this space, you know, it's about this exploration of self too that I haven't quite fully unraveled. For me, I view it as like these threads, and these threads of me are linked to these things, whether it was like Starbucks, wife, mom, and I'm trying to unravel all of those and only take from those spools of thread like what is actually true to me and not just true to those titles and the obligation that I have to those. And it's not something I've ever had the time to do before, and I know I'm getting really wordy and off the rails with this, but I don't know. My mind has never been able to slow down in this way. Everything that I thought about in my day-to-day prior to this was on behalf of Starbucks. I mean, I was a district manager in the licensed business, so I supported in my own portfolio 5 other brands bringing the Starbucks experience to life as licensees. And so that took a lot of like mental focus and a lot of business acumen. There were always a lot of wheels spinning on how I could support their success in alignment with Starbucks success. So anyway, I have just a lot of brain power that is now available. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, today I am at home cleaning, doing some stuff. I probably need to listen to my lectures for school. It's due on Sunday because I have a paper to write, and we're headed into finals in the next week and a half. And then I'm taking my girls to see The Life of a Showgirl at the movie theater later. So that will be a good mental break. But anyway, if you're in a similar season of life, I mean, there were 899 other of you that were impacted by this literally 1 week ago. I hope you've taken some space for yourself and you're doing well, and just hang in there. We've got this together. We'll all land somewhere, and I think some of us will bring others along with, because when one of us opens a door, we hold it open for the person behind us, and that's just the Starbucks that I came from. So it's the part that I'll take with me. Anyway, off to a Friday.
Great restructuring, I talked about this before, is taking place. It has everything to do with AI. What's interesting is the iconic Starbucks in Seattle, I think it's in Seattle, and they had this iconic Seattle roastery. And all of a sudden, that Starbucks is closing. But there are many stores that are being laid off. Almost 900 non-retail employees will be laid off. The Great Reconstructing is what we call what they're doing to replace positions with AI. Now, people was wondering at the start of this administration why so many people in a lot of state, local governments was losing their jobs. I truly believe that there is a reconstructing that is taking place because AI is a priority with this administration. We all know what AI is going to lead to. We've all talked about it concerning biblical prophecy, and we know ultimately that AI has very quickly rose to the occasion and is implemented in our everyday lives. Prepare between 12 to 18 months from today. Be prepared. There's going to be more large layoffs because of all of these different major corporations. What they're doing is they're looking at what jobs are being duplicated, and if any job is being duplicated, they're going to replace it with AI. With Starbucks, they not only is letting go of corporate employees, but even your baristas and things of that nature. This is major. AI is going to be second nature. I've been seeing there is another coffee that is like company that's on the rise where you can order it right with the machine and it gives it to you right out the machine. You pay right there and you go on your way. So that in itself tells you what is to come. When you go into a lot of the CVS's, they have where you can pay right with the machines. A lot of places are going to that. Walmart started it back some time ago before AI was really on the rise. But Starbucks, to close these layoffs, workers, this is like a $1 billion reconstructuring plan that they are doing. We know indefinitely where AI is going to lead us, the road that we are going down. And this is so tricky. This is so tricky because in our everyday lives, we are getting used to using AI in some type of way in our lives. AI is being used. When you look at a lot of these college kids, child, AI gets them, they work done in a matter of seconds and minutes. I'm kind of pissed that we didn't have AI. Because baby, imagine if we had AI. We having to cite our sources and all that. Meanwhile, you really have to think how large of an industry coffee is. This is such a large industry, and people of all types of everything drink coffee daily, multiple times a day. So the mere fact that Starbucks is closing and closing stores, the mere fact that they're closing stores and doing mass layoffs, we know that coffee is a huge industry in which, brew? I don't know, the 7 Brew is like on the rise. So it's not necessarily coffee is not doing well or the company is not doing well. I believe wholeheartedly that they are making room for AI. Next movement for these 5 to 10 more years is going to be the tech industry. A lot of the jobs that have been a priority in society is not going to be a thing anymore because AI has been on a rise and it is vastly growing. So if you are looking for an industry to get into, jump into tech. I don't care how you get into it, but jump into tech because that is going to be the new wave. Talking about end times though, let's do a switcheroo. When we think about AI in the end times, AI is going to take over industries in every way possible. With that being said, we have to be mindful of what AI entails in totality. We are headed for some really scary times where computers will be running our world. It will no longer be humans. And I recall Dante Reed saying this. He said the humans, we wasn't that smart. Who? I'm not fooling with Elante. I'm not gonna fool with him.
Well, in case you needed more evidence that big corporate is definitely a profit over people playbook, Starbucks' latest announcement today shows you that their forced RTO didn't get the results they were looking for. And by results, I mean they didn't get enough people to quit that they had hoped. So now they're resorting to more of a mass layoff and some store closings. And don't be fooled for a minute that this is actually something that's going to help the company, right? Move it forward. This is purely a cost-cutting exercise to get to the profitability. Because if you remember when I posted on this way back when, the C-suite is completely tied to a profitability bonus, right? So they have to take expenses out, and it's not a top line. I'm sure they've got some incentive for top line, but at the end of the day, they need profitability and they need to drive the stock price up. That's all this is. And if you think all the moves today were coincidental, they're not. It's purely about taking expense out of the business because his grand strategy, CEOs, has not worked. So again, when you think about that playbook, it's the forced RTO. Hopefully you get people to quit. When they don't quit, then you do layoffs. Right now, I think this is their second big one of the year, which tells me that they're going to miss their quarterly profit number again, and the CEO's under intense pressure to deliver. So anyway, if you're a Gen Xer still hanging out in corporate, waiting for things to get better, they're not going to get better. Starbucks is just one example of, where I think all of corporate's going. They're caught in this bind of, right, profitabilities. They get profits over people, and it's all short-term driven. Plus with AI, I think they're under the illusion that they're going to be able to take expense out and magically get the productivity back. That's not going to happen either. So anyway, so if you still are in corporate and you're looking for an exit strategy, I'm actually hosting a webinar tonight. Today is, what is today? Thursday, September 25th, 5 p.m. Central. It's only in a couple of hours. I'm hosting a webinar on why I truly believe that it's easier to find your first customer than your next job, especially as a Gen Xer, even a millennial, for that matter, is there. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about why I believe this, but more importantly, how you can get started and seeing if life outside of corporate's right for you. Because even if you choose not to, at some point, corporate's going to quit on you. Anyway, if you're still in corporate, Good luck. And if you are curious about this webinar, it's in the link in the bio. You can see the live events. It's free. Should be about 30, 40 minutes. I'll take questions as well. So, and if you're still in corporate, good luck.
So, Starbucks recently announced layoffs. The company claims it's about restructuring and realigning priorities. But let's be honest, corporate talks like that usually means we found cheaper ways to make money and the workers got in the way. What's wild is that this is the same Starbucks that loves to market itself as people first company. They've got those glossy ads showing smiling baristas, the partners they call family. Yet somehow family doesn't seem to matter much when it's time to protect the profit margins. And let's not ignore the timing. Starbucks profits are their profits are up. Executive bonuses still pouring in. Shareholders very happy. Workers are not so much. It's like watching someone sip a $7 machito while telling you they can't afford to pay rent. Make it make sense. This isn't just about coffee. It's about how big corporations sugarcoat their greed. When profits rise and people still lose their jobs, that's not a tough decision. That's a calculated one. These layoffs don't happen in a vacuum. They ripple through families, communities, and small economies. But you won't see that in a Starbucks press release, will you? You won't see that. And the saddest part, the workers who got laid off are often the same ones who helped the company survive during tough times. Remember those pandemic shifts when baristas they risked their lives, their health, just to keep the drive through running. It's like, thanks for your service. Here's your pink slip and a coupon for a free tall coffee. At the end of the day, Starbucks can claim all the values and integrity it wants, but when you treat people like disposable coffee filters, it's hard to believe you're really brewing anything but profit. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you believe workers deserve better than corporates, then do well to hit that subscribe button. Like the video, share the video, and tell me your thoughts on the comment section. I want to hear from you. Do you still believe Starbucks care about its workers? Should customers start boycotting companies that pretend to be people first but act otherwise? Drop your thoughts below. Until next time, I'll see you on my next video. Credit belongs to original creators.